Hey y'all, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to check out another one of my videos. Today I'm super excited to be sharing this video because it is a subscriber requested video or a subscriber idea that they left in the comments of a previous video, and I thought it was so much fun I had to put it on my list to record, and we're finally doing it today. But basically I'm going to go through all the palettes that I tried in 2020, which was a total of 61 palettes if we're being exact here, and we're going to put them up against each other as a little battle of the palettes in today's video. So as I said, we're going to be doing a battle of the palettes from 2020. Now, if you're new to my channel, last year in 2020, I ranked the first half of the month. So for the first 6 months, I took all those palettes that I tried and I did a ranking video, which I will put here. I ranked them all. It was over 30 palettes, I think 33 to be exact. So I did that halfway through the year of 2020. And then at the end of 2020, I followed that up with the rest of the half of the year. So I ranked the rest of the palettes that I tried in the last 6 months, and that video is here. I will have these video linked down below. And I had kind of asked in that video, I was like, do you guys want to see like all of the palettes, or is this, half of the year and the last half of the year, is that good? And overwhelmingly you guys were like, oh, it's good to break them up, otherwise it'd just be a super long video and also redundant to do those two videos and then follow it up with ranking all the palettes together. Anyway, I had asked that and I got a really great comment, which I'll scoot over here again because Julie left this comment and said, you know, it would be really, really fun if you took these palettes from the first half of the year and the last half of the year and battled them against each other in the same number. And I thought that idea was just so much fun. So I was like, you know what? That sounds super hard, but it also sounds like a ton of fun. Let's do it. Let's just have some fun talking about eyeshadow palettes. You guys know I love to revisit eyeshadow palettes that I've gotten in the past, so I've pulled them all out. It was an ordeal to grab all of them, but I pulled them all out. I want to do a palette declutter, so you'll be seeing that sometime in February, but I'm going to do that, so I figured, you know what, since I'm going to be pulling everything off to go through them, let's do this video before I get into that, and that way we can do a battle of the palettes and see which palette reigns supreme from the palettes I tried at the beginning of the year to the palettes I tried at the end of the year. Many thanks to Julie for leaving this comment under my video and throwing this idea out there. I think it's just going to be so much fun. So why don't we just go ahead and jump right in and get started battling these palettes against each other. Before we do that though, let's go ahead and do my Instagram shout out for today. And for today, I'm going to be highlighting this commenter from my most recent Instagram post. They left this really sweet comment and it just stood out to me and I really do appreciate it. So yeah, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to comment on my posts over on Instagram. I really do appreciate it. And you are my Instagram shout out for today. Okay, so my battery pack died. I'm pretty sure one of them is going out because I charge it all night and then it lasts for like 5 minutes, so I need to order a new one. But anyway, as I already said, I tried more at the beginning half of the year than at the end of the half, so the bottom, the extras that are left over that just don't have a companion palette for me to battle it out with at the end of the year, I'm just going to show you guys and then set them aside, and we just won't really be talking about them. But we have the Storybook Cosmetics Fairy Tales palette. These are all from the beginning half of the year. I think I already said that. But also the Juvia's Place The Violets palette. We have the Netty Bird Sibling Rivalry palette that looks like this. And then the Lorac Neon Lights palette. And then last time, I'm going to state the picture here because I've already decluttered it, but this is the Butter London Teddy Girl palette. As I said, I've already decluttered it, passed it along. So all those palettes were included in my first half of the year countdown when I ranked all the palettes I tried in the first 6 months of 2020, but we're not going to be mentioning them today because I don't have anything to battle them out with from the last half of the year. And I'm going to go ahead and put the number on the screen just because I'm terrified of messing up and like saying the wrong number, and I always think that's super awkward. So the number's going to be on the screen, but I think we're starting at 28 if I remember my count right. But for 28, we are going to have the Ace Beauté Vintage Dawn palette from the first half of the year. Battling it out against what I put at the 28th spot was the She Glam Seafoam palette from the last half of the year. Now this is super easy for me because actually, as much as I dogged on this in the first half of the year, I reached back for the Vintage Dawn palette at the end of the year and tried a couple different techniques that I've just learned over the course of the year, and it worked really well for me. So I really enjoyed this palette. I forget the look that I did. I'll go ahead and stick it here. I put it on Instagram because I was so happy with it, but it turned out beautiful. I thought everything blended nicely. So honestly, this Vintage Dawn palette has been redeemed. I've only tried it that one other time, but I'd love to like reach back for it now that I actually found a way that makes it work better. And really, it's really simple. Just work from the darkest color to the lightest color instead of vice versa, which I tend to do. And then also use a really good glitter glue. Don't use as much of the shimmers. I just used a couple different techniques and I thought it was beautiful. It lasted well. I was very happy with it. So for me, this is very easy because the Vintage Dawn, in my opinion, now that I know how to use it and I know how nicely it works, I would put it much higher if I ranked it now. So this definitely wins out over the She Glam palette from the Seafoam palette because this palette, there's just like one look that you can get for me personally, and I still have to work so very hard to get these colors to show up in order to get that one look that it's just not worth it. So definitely, like I said, whoops, easy for me, but the first half of the year definitely wins out. Should we keep a tally to see which are the best palettes that I tried, since I have to keep one and drop one? See if the first half of the year or the last half of the year gets more palettes? Let's do that. We'll put it, I'll do it in editing. Anyway, definitely keeping the Ace Beauté, dropping the Seafoam palette. Next up, we have from Mellow Cosmetics the Sinopia palette, and that's going to be battled against the Blush Tribe Layla 2 palette. Now, this one's actually really hard because I'm not a fan of either one. This is just very neutral, and then this palette just really didn't work for me. I didn't think it was all that nice, but if I have to pick one, I would go with this, because as much as I'm not into neutrals, this could get some really pretty neutrals. I did a really pretty mauve color, and I just didn't enjoy working with this. I felt like I had to work so hard to get any type of look that I liked, whereas this, at least, you know, maybe it's not an exciting look, but I could get it in within 5 minutes. So I'm gonna keep the Mellow palette and drop the Layla 2. Okay, first half of 2020 is on a roll, definitely beating out the last half. But next we have the ColourPop Honey palette, and that is going to be battled against the Colored Rain Juicy Boost palette. This one's really hard because I'm not a fan of either one of them. Let me think here. I think my biggest problem with this is that the yellows aren't intense enough so that all the looks just kind of look like a neutral with a hint of yellow to it. And then this, of course, I have many qualms with it just not being as good as the original formula. But if I have to pick one, I'm gonna go with the Juicy Boost, because as much as I don't enjoy working with it, at least I can get versatility, whereas this, I just feel like they were all very neutral shades with sometimes a little hint of yellow. And then also there's a glitter. I don't know, it didn't impress me much, so I'm going to drop the Honey palette and keep the Juicy Boost. Next we have the I Heart Revolution Heartbreakers palette against the Pure Cosmetics Festival 2.0 palette. I honestly should have included this Heartbreaker palette in my disappointing palettes of 2020. I totally glossed over it because I stored it somewhere else. Just because, like, trying other pastels, this is a very disappointing pastel, in my opinion. The pastels that are in here are very disappointing. Anyway, that's not the point. Oh, my shadow broke. How am I surprised, considering how rough my son is anytime he comes in this room? Anyway, these are the two palettes, and I'm gonna have to keep the Festival 2.0 just because, as I said, the pastels in here are not good, and if you take the pastels out, there's just not a whole lot of variety. Yes, it's green, but it's just not a whole lot of variety. This, at least, yes, it's neutral, but you got some variety. You got pops of colors there. You might have to work hard to get it to build up, but I don't know. The looks that I did, I think I got bored by the third or fourth look, but at least I was, you know, interested. This, I just feel like I had to work a lot, and the pans are small. That's also too, the pans are annoyingly small for brushes and stuff, so I just remember thinking back to both these palettes, being more annoyed with this one than this one. Not to say that it's bad, it's like $7, but it's just not my preference, so dropping the I Heart Revolution, keeping the Pure Festival palette. I should have said this already, but I have taken no, like, forethought in this. I just lined all the palettes up, and I guess I could see which ones I'm gonna have to battle it out, but I didn't really think about it at all, so this is all just, as we're sitting here chatting, my thoughts and opinions as they come to me. But anyway, next up we're gonna battle the Celestial Thunder from Dominique Cosmetics palette. Ooh, can I hold this correctly? Against the Chic Glam Artistry palette. Oh, this is hard because I love the formula, the intensity of these shadows way more than this, but this also has variety, and it has that yellow, orange, and green colors that I like. But yeah, the formula here is just so much more intense and beautiful. I do think I would enjoy this palette more if I had the long form, because it would give more options. This is a little limiting for me, I think. I did a 3 looks on palette, and I remember enjoying it. It got me outside my comfort zone. It made me stretch my imagination, stretch my creativity. So I'm going to keep the Celestial, drop the Artistry. Next up is going to be the Juvia's Place Wahala palette, and that's going to be battled against the Midas Cosmetics Artistry 1.2. I've already decluttered that and give it to my daughter, actually, because she loves playing with colorful eyeshadows, so I don't have it. Here it is, but battling these out is very easy. I'm going to pick the Wahala. 1, it's got more colors, it got some more options, and then 2, while I wasn't a really big fan of either of these palettes, I definitely prefer this. It's just easier to work with. The Artistry 1.2 from Midas, I just didn't enjoy working with it. There was a couple times it wanted to patch up and be weird, and also longevity wasn't good, so definitely picking this and dropping the Midas. Next is the Makeup Revolution Forever Flawless Birds of Paradise palette, and that is going against the Zoeva Matte Voyager palette. This is almost unfair because, yes, it's very easy for me. I'm going to pick the colorful palette and drop the Zoeva. The formula on this maybe isn't the most amazing, and I definitely didn't enjoy the glitters, and the shimmers weren't good, but the mattes were decent. I can work with them. So keeping this, dropping Zoeva. Sorry. It didn't really stand a chance. A tiny little neutral palette against a big old colorful palette. Next is Netty Bird's Vitamin C palette, and that is going to be going up against, can I open this? The Ciate London New England palette. This is a little tricky for me because I love the color story of here. However, the formula of this is a lot better than the formula of this. There's no glitters in here, which there's two glitters in here. So this is hard, but I think we're gonna go with this because at least, I mean, the formula isn't great, but it's workable and it's a lot more colorful. So just the looks that I could get, I would enjoy more. So I am going to keep the vitamin C palette and I'm going to drop this. It's just very neutral for me, which isn't something I'm super into. Even though it's a colorful neutral, I will give you that. It's just not as, it doesn't pack as much a punch as I like. Next, we're gonna battle the Milani Cosmetics Gilded Jade palette against the Glamlight Ice Cream Dream palette. Oh, that my son got into. Yes, he snuck in here and totally gouged out. Anyway, moving on. What am I going to do? Because I like how big and how much variety the Glamlight has. However, like thinking back to the looks that I did, I much preferred and had a more enjoyable experience with the Gilded Jade. So I think I'm going to do it. As much as I tend to prefer bigger palettes and more colorful palettes, I'm going to stick to the smaller one. At least it's a nice green palette that I really do enjoy. And it had a lot of beautiful shimmers. I remember really enjoying the shimmers and the green mattes. And this one, I mean, while I think it's colorful and it's beautiful, and if you kind of stick with the pastels and don't really mix the neutrals too much with the pastels, I enjoyed it. I don't know, it's just more of a disappointment. So anyway, I'm picking this one over this one. So keeping Milani, dropping Glamlight. That kind of hurts. Next, I have the Makeup Revolution Reloaded Euphoria palette, and that's going to be battled against the Ofra Cosmetics Signature Empowered palette. This, again, is easy. I'm going to go for colorful over neutral. As much as this is more green toned, it still is very neutral and very soft leaning, which isn't always my speed. And this one is just so colorful. I actually prefer this one over the Birds of Paradise, if I remember correctly. I did a battle of the palettes where I compared this against the Birds of Paradise from Makeup Revolution. I'll leave that video linked if you want to see because I can't remember, but I do remember doing a blue silver look with this, absolutely loving it. So keeping this, dropping Ofra. I thought the last half of the year was going to have an advantage because I tried so many awesome palettes towards the end of the year, and it's also going to be freshest in my memory. But so far, the first half of 2020 is beating the last half. Next up, we have e.l.f. x J Kissa To The Rescue palette. That's also broke. I am making such a mess today. What is the deal? I think it's shattered. I don't think my son got into it. It's the purple one. So I'm going to hold this up very carefully and also try not to blind you guys, but it's going to go against the Poppy See You Never palette. So here the two are blah, blah, blah. I can't talk. This is tough. I'm going to go with the e.l.f. though because I really do like the rainbow aspect, even though I wasn't a fan of the purples and the reds. Everything else in the middle, those 4 rows in the middle I liked. Also all the shimmers I thought were really pretty. This one I wasn't as big a fan of it. I'm not a big fan of how Poppy does their pastel formula. It's just so very sheer. And yeah, it was too many pinks for me, so I'm going to drop the See You Never palette and keep the e.l.f. and J Kissa that has me all a mess right now. Okay, moving on. We have, for the first half of the year, I'm trying not to let these go out of order because that would be terrible, but I have the Stroke Cosmetics Divinity palette, and that's going to go against the Midas Cosmetics Artistry 1 palette. Ooh, this one's hard. But you know what? I'm going to go with this one just because this formula was really nice. That shimmer is beautiful. And this one, I was a little stumped with the color story of this grunge palette. While I did enjoy it, I was just a little bit stumped. I remember doing looks, and besides like a green mustard color, I don't know. I just remember being a little more stumped by this palette. So just going off of my first initial thoughts, keeping Midas, dropping Stroke. Okay, next we have another Midas. This is the Macchiato Green Tea Macchiato palette, and that's going to go against the Fenty Beauty Money palette. So, oh, this is so hard. Which should I do? I'm going to go with the Midas one because there's more mattes to work with. This, while I did really enjoy the Fenty, there definitely were too many shimmers in it and not enough mattes. There's only 2 mattes, 1 green, 1 brown, and that was it. So, easy decision for me. Dropping Fenty, keeping the Midas. Next up, we have Juvia's Place, the Berries palette, and that's going to go against the Dose of Colors Cutting Edge palette. Let me open them up right here. Ooh, this is hard, but also kind of easy because as much as I enjoyed this palette, you guys know I'm not that big into reds, so I'm going to go with the Dose palette for sure because that Dose palette has just got all the grungy green that I could ask for. So keeping Dose, dropping the Juvia's Place. Okay, next I have Moonslice Beauty. This is the Emerald Moon palette against Natasha Denona's Peak palette. I just got this one recently. Let me hold it up. This palette against this palette. This one, as much as I would caution you to be careful purchasing from this brand because there's some drama over them fulfilling orders, which I think is a little problematic, you know, for me to recommend to you guys to buy this palette if there could be a chance of like them not sending you a palette. It's a whole long story. I always include the video that Fear and Nyx goes into explaining everything if you want to find out before buying. But anyway, let's just talk about the palettes. These two, it's easy for me because I do love this palette. It's a beautiful green palette. and the formula, it's been so long since I've tried this, but I remember really enjoying the formula. I was going to do 3 looks on this palette. I was so happy with the looks that I got with it and all that, but with all the drama that's behind this brand, I decided not to. But for the sake of this video, keeping the Moon Size Beauty and dropping Natasha Denona. Okay, let's see. Last half of 2020 is not doing so hot. That kind of is appropriate. Anyway, next up is the ColourPop Orange You Glad palette, and that's going to be battled against the Beachside palette from Ofra. I just blanked. But anyway, oh, this is hard. Out of all of their like monochromatic palettes, this orange is definitely my favorite because it's actually very intense. Even though it's not super orangey, it's got a lot of, I think it was like peachness to it, which kind of surprised me. But anyway, between these two, I'm going to have to keep the Ofra because I really did enjoy this palette. I had so much fun with the looks that I created with it, and it's just got a lot of versatility and just uniqueness. I just remember really enjoying it and getting a lot of looks that weren't super repetitive, which I love. And then this one, as I said, there wasn't enough orange in it. While it did have a good orange and the colors and the saturation of the colors were really nice and intense, it didn't have enough orange in this palette for me. So, dropping ColourPop, keeping Ofra. Okay, moving right along. Next we have the, ooh, my palettes are starting to fall. We have the I Heart Revolution Tasty Avocado palette, and this is going to go against the Bright Addictions palette from Ofra Cosmetics. Let me open them both up. Okay, so here is what we have. I'm going to go with the Tasty Avocado because while I do like how colorful this is, I had so much fun with the Tasty Avocado, and I feel like I did so many looks, but it wasn't like, it didn't get old and boring. I was still enjoying the looks that I got, and I like the variety of shades in here. A bit repetitive between some of the shades, but overall very happy with this. Whereas this, I don't know, not that it was bad. I created so many looks that I liked with it, but having to choose, thinking back to which one I enjoyed more, I mean, we're getting to the top, so all these palettes I really did enjoy, so I have to pick. I feel like I'm just going to be crying the rest of the way because I have to choose between favorites, but if I have to pick, it's going to be the Tasty Avocado. Okay, now it's like really getting real. All of these were super big favorites from the first and last half of the year, so this is getting so hard. But anyway, let's keep moving. We can do this. Next, we are battling the Menagerie Cosmetics Pastel Pup palette against the Nomad Cartagena Magica palette. I hope I say that right. But anyway, these two. This is so hard because there's pros and cons with each of them. This isn't my favorite pastel palette, but this also isn't my favorite kind of red, yellow, monochromatic palette. It doesn't have enough depth for me. Choose, Katie, choose. What shall I choose? I am gonna go with the Pastel Pup palette because it's going to give me a little more variety, and that's something I always look with a palette, like how many different types of looks can I get from a palette, and this one I think I created 3 or 4 and all of them just had the same feel to them. So with this palette, at least, you know, with it being such a rainbow of pastels, I know I'm going to get different looks if I pair different colors together. So keeping Pastel Pup, dropping Nomad Cartagena palette. Okay, next up is the Creepy Cute from Strobe Cosmetics, another pastel palette, and this one is going against the Nomad Lake Como palette that I really did enjoy. Oh, this is so hard. But you know what? I'm sorry I'm looking at the viewfinder so much in this video, but I want to see both of the palettes. That helps me decide. But anyway, I'm going to go with the Nomad Lake Como palette because I think I created at least 3, maybe 4 looks, and I enjoyed each and every one of them. This one, I did also enjoy the looks with it. Not saying that I didn't, but I love more rich tones, blues and greens than pastels. So that's what's helping me decide because I want them both, obviously. They're both very high up in my countdowns, but I have to keep one. So keeping Nomad Lake Como and dropping the Strobe Creepy Cute. Okay, next we have the Myers Cosmetics Smoky Glow palette. Here is what she looks like. Again, a mess. I don't know why I'm so rough with my palettes. But anyway, this is going against the Made by Mitchell Feet on the Ground palette. This is kind of unfair. I'm sorry, Hannah, but this is easy for me. I'm going with the Feet on the Ground palette that I totally just bonked my chin into. But I'm going with this palette because, come on, you guys know me and my color stories that I like. I'm going to go with the greens, and even it's got the pop of interest in there. This, I mean, it's a beautiful palette. I really did enjoy it, but I'm not that big into mauves and pinks and purples. I guess there's not a whole lot of purple, but mauves and pinks, you know what I mean? So I'm going to keep the Made by Mitchell Feet on the Ground palette, and I'm going to drop the Midas Smoky Glow palette. Sorry, Hannah. Okay, next up we have the Pop Zombie palette from Ruby May Cosmetics. And that is going against the BH Cosmetics Sweet Shop Pistachio palette. Ooh, I really enjoyed both of these. This is so hard, but I'm definitely going with the Sweet Shop Pistachio palette because I had so much fun with this. I did the 3 looks. It was so much fun. Yes, it's a monochromatic. It's like an all green palette, but I felt like it was so very versatile and the quality of these shadows was so very good. So with this palette, while yes, I did enjoy it, I thought it was great, like the versatility and like the different types of looks you can get. I do remember not being impressed with the yellow and then also that pink. So that's what's helping me decide it, but both great palettes. palettes, but keeping the pistachio palette. Okay, next up we have the Juvia's Place, the Warrior 3 palette. And that is going to be battled against the Autumn palette by Yvette Beauty. Oh, this is getting so very hard because I love both of these palettes, but I'm going to go with Yvette Beauty because this combination of yellows, oranges, reds, and greens, be still my heart. I love it every time I look at it. I enjoyed every single look I did with it, and I wanted to do more. Not that this palette is bad, but you guys, I have to pick one, and it's so hard. I really do love this palette. I love the shimmers that they put in here, but I'm gonna drop the Juvia's, keep Yvette Beauty. Okay, next up we have the Pumpkin Spice Latte from Midas Cosmetics. Oh, those oranges were so beautiful. But this is going against DJ's Unique Boutique, the Reasons palettes, and you guys, come on. It's a beautiful palette. I mean, both of these are gorgeous palette, but this one's bigger and it has the blues and greens that I love. So I'm sorry, Midas. I love this palette. This is one of my favorite, or like quads. This has got to be one of my favorite quads that I have in my collection. But I'm going to drop the, what is it, Latte palette from Midas, and I'm definitely keeping the DJ's Unique Boutique, the Reasons palette, because this color story is gorgeous and the formula was really, really nice. Okay, next up we have another tiny palette that's going against a big palette. I feel kind of bad. But anyway, this is the e.l.f. Bite Size Hot Jalapeno palette, and that's going, this is so funny. That's going against the Give Me Glow Extra Spicy palette. I think that's funny how they're all like pepper theme or whatever, but let me open this up. Okay, here they are. As much as I love my greens, I'm gonna go for the bigger palette every single time, and also it's Give Me Glow. This is a gorgeous palette, not to say anything wrong with it, but if I have to pick, I'm gonna go with the more options just because I feel like it's more versatile and you can get, you know, more different type of looks. So, gonna go with Give Me Glow, and I'm dropping the e.l.f. Bite Size palette. Okay, last half of 2020 is starting to redeem itself. We're getting some progress. We're getting closer together. Anyway, next up I have the Venus 2 palette from Lime Crime that I tried in the first half of the year, and that is going against the Muse Beauty Impressionism palette. This, so hard. I love both of these palettes, but it's an easy one for me because I'm going to definitely pick the Muse Beauty Impressionism palette because versatility, color, saturation, there's just so much more I can do with this as opposed to this one. And also with the Lime Crime, I wasn't a big fan of the shimmers at all. Really do like this palette, but I'm going to have to drop Lime Crime and keep the Muse Beauty Impressionism palette. Okay, I cannot believe we're down to the final three. Whew, I'm sweating under these lights. Next up is going to be the Flower Beauty Jungle Lights palette. This is an all shimmer palette that is so very beautiful. This is going against the Give Me Glow Cosmetics. This isn't an actual palette yet, but this is their Pretty in Pastel collection. And it's funny because Flower Beauty, their shimmer formula, reminds me of Give Me Glow's shimmer formula. I think that's so funny that they're being battled out together. But I have to pick a favorite. I'm going to pick Give Me Glow Pastels because this is hands down my favorite pastel palette bundle, whatever you want to call it. And it is coming back. They're making it into a palette. I'm crossing my fingers so hard that Give Me Glow keeps the formula the same, but also the same amount of colors. And if that's the case, if it's like exactly like this, except in a big palette, it's the best pastel palette that I've tried. It's definitely hands down my favorite. I've done a tutorial on my channel. I can leave that linked. But anyway, I don't even think I've said yet, but it's easy for me. I'm keeping the Give Me Glow Pretty in Pastel palette and dropping the Flower Beauty Jungle Lights palette. Okay, top two. I have the Poppy Cosmetics Neon Drip palette. I really did like this palette. It was so much fun. That's going against this hunker. I need to put it down because this is the P. Louise Worldy palette. Ugh, there we go. Open that. Okay, now let's bring it up so you guys can see the two. Okay. This is, again, very easy because I'm just going to go with the P. Louise Worldy palette because the colors are more me. As much as I really enjoyed this palette and all of the neonness, this color story has my heart. I just did a look not too long ago at the end of the year during Cakemas with this, and it was by far my favorite. It was a gorgeous look. I had so much fun. They're so easy to blend together. I have to pick the Worldy palette. This formula is just so much fun to use, and the color story was just so much fun to create looks with. So, dropping Neon Drip as much as I don't want to, and keeping the Worldy palette. Okay, last up. I knew this was going to be coming out because I knew which ones were first in both of the videos, but I'm not ready for it. I'm not ready for this because it is the September Rose Slush palette, which is this beautiful, I just totally dropped it. Okay. This beautifulness right here, this beautiful rainbow, and it's going against the Shroud Cosmetics and Butte Bean It's Freaking Bats palette, which is a gorgeous palette. Oh no! Zero just shattered. I didn't know that it was crushed. Oh my goodness. Levi, he gets into my palettes now when I'm not looking. I've had to like literally bar my door. Okay. I am a little sad, but we're going to press what I can of that back into the palette, and I will save that shadow as much as I can, but literally the whole thing just fell out. I'm very sad right now. Anyway, moving on. I knew this was coming up and I cannot decide. I've been thinking about it on and off and I still can't decide. Looking at them now, I still can't decide because right off the bat, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go for more options, versatility. That's what I've been saying the whole video, Katie. But this is also such a pretty palette. It's so beautiful. But you know what? I don't know. I really do prefer the shimmers also of Shroud Cosmetics over the September Rose, even though they're fine. They're just, I enjoy these shimmers more. They're more sparkly, more intense, more interesting. It's such a grungy, yeah, like this is grungy and colorful, but it's not super colorful. And whereas this is, you know, very vibrant and colorful. So I feel I need to pick it, even though my heart breaks to not pick Betty Jean's palette, the It's Freaking Bats palette, because I really did enjoy it. At this point, I should have just posted my 3 looks using this. So check that out if you want to see, but I really do love this palette. But if I'm going to have to pick, I have to go with the rainbow because it's just so versatile. There's more options. The colors in here were always so intense. And yeah, I'm going to pick the Slush palette. I'm sorry, It's Freaking Bats. You're freaking amazing and freaking all over my floor, but I have to pick this one. Okay, so as you guys have seen from the screen, like as we go along, how did this happen? But they're exactly split in the middle. I have 14 palettes from the first half of the year that won out versus 14 palettes from the last half of the year that won out. I cannot believe that because for the longest time as we've been going along, even towards the end when I was picking more of the latter half, I thought for sure the first half of 2020 was going to win because the pile was getting so big and I kept going to this side. But yeah, I've counted twice. We got 14 palettes here from the beginning of 2020. And then we have, I can't even pick it all up because the gosh darn Worldy palette is so ginormous, but we have 14 palettes from the last half of the year. So that is too funny and that is totally unexpected, but we're split down the middle. There's not even a clear winner. Look at that, Katie, way to go. You had to go tie it up. But anyway, this was all in good fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. And thank you so much again to Julie for leaving this comment down below because I just had so much fun sitting here and doing this. Yes, it got really hard towards the end, but I love talking about palettes that I've used in the past. So it was fun to pull all the ones down that I tried in 2020 and get to lay them all out and just revisit it, hold them and look at them one more time. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. And if you ever have any suggestions for videos, especially if it has to do with palettes, because you guys know my love of palettes, but feel free to always leave them down in the comments and maybe I'll do a video and I will definitely shout you out if that is the case, as I really do like to be able to shout you guys out whenever you guys give me video ideas. But yeah, with all that said, that is going to do it for today's video. Give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, as it helps me in the whole YouTube algorithm. Feel free to share this video with a friend if you have a friend who also enjoys palettes and just loves talking about palettes. This is the video where I did nothing but talk about 60 palettes, I think it was. I don't know, 61. I remember, 61 palettes. But anyway, yeah, if you want to continue getting daily content from me, I'm over on Instagram. I'm LadyKD92. And with all that said, I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye, guys.